Apparently, all the accolades Caitlin Clark is receiving are because she's white, and the jealous players attacking her are the real victims. Grumpy Sheryl Swoopes is the worst. Instead of riding Clark to relevance, she's riding her way to career suicide. The former WNBA star turned broadcaster has talked herself off the Clark gravy train. She's practically lighting herself on fire. Steve, they had to pull her off a game because she can't be trusted to call Caitlin Clark games correctly or fairly. They basically pulled her off for racism. You've seen Caitlin Clark dominate on the court, but did you know her success is causing major drama behind the scenes? Sheryl Swoopes, one of the greatest players in women's basketball history, is now in hot water for her attacks on Clark. What's really going on here? The mob of triggered fans dwarfs the people who want to turn their idol into a victim. A victimhood mentality could derail Caitlin Clark's historic season, preventing her from reaching her full potential. This year, Clark has a chance to put together the greatest rookie season in the history of professional sports, greater than anything Michael Jordan could achieve. Clark is shattering records and leaving jaws on the floor with her performances, making headlines everywhere. But here's where it gets crazy. Not everyone's cheering. There's tension brewing in women's basketball, and Clark is right in the middle of it. Transformational figures always stir controversy, and Caitlin Clark is no exception. Rookie of the Year? That race is over. We can't ignore the elephant in the room, especially after Sheryl Swoopes made news last week. She was applauding Indiana Fever players, but conveniently forgot to mention Clark. You might think it's just basketball, right? Wrong. This goes deeper. Jealousy, generational clashes, and hidden agendas are at play. Sheryl Swoopes, once the face of women's basketball, is now making headlines for all the wrong reasons. What caused this icon to fall from grace? And why is Caitlin Clark at the center of it all? Nancy Liberman replaced Swoopes and immediately called out the contrived Clark-Reese rookie battle, saying, "By far, Clark is going to be Rookie of the Year. If anybody thinks she's not, feel free to call me or hit me on Instagram or Twitter." It all started when Swoopes made comments about Clark that set social media ablaze. Swoopes even went silent for 50 seconds during a broadcast, while her co-host discussed Clark being named Player of the Week. A legend like Swoopes suddenly going quiet on Clark speaks volumes. In the aftermath, Swoopes blasted Liberman on Twitter, posted screenshots of a February text exchange with Clark, and lashed out at Clark's fans. Swoopes also defended Diamond D Shields after a controversial play involving Clark, a move that didn't sit well with fans who saw it as another jab at Clark. It's getting intense out here, and the drama shows no signs of slowing down. Was it an oversight or intentional? The Indiana Fever blew out the Chicago sky on a night when Diamond D Shields delivered 3 cheap shots. Meanwhile, Caitlin Clark posted 31 points and 12 assists in a dominant 19-point victory. Sheryl Swoopes left the game to a round of applause, but sat on the sidelines as Angel Reese padded her stats in the final 90 seconds. Reese, D Shields, Angry Carter, and their coach Weatherspoon have lost 8 of their last 10 games. The backlash was swift and fierce. Fans and analysts alike called out Swoopes, accusing her of jealousy toward Clark's rising stardom. Clark is breaking records left and right, but suddenly, one of the greatest players of all time has nothing positive to say about her. People are talking, and it's not in a good way. I got off the treadmill, called Sheryl as a friend, and said, "You can say whatever you want and have your own opinion about anybody, but you have to get the statistics right. Facts matter. Just get ahead of this. Say you made a mistake, and people will respect your opinion." But Sheryl got upset with me on the phone. I tried to explain, "Sheryl, I'm not trying to hurt you. I'm just talking to you as a friend. Unfortunately, our relationship has deteriorated." I tried to talk to her at the Final Four, but she didn't want to engage. My life will be fine without Sheryl Swoopes, though I'd rather have her in it. The situation became so heated that Swoopes was removed from broadcasting a game, with the network citing concerns about perceived bias. This isn't just any commentator. Swoopes is a basketball icon, so when she criticizes or snubs Clark, it's a big deal. You can't praise the Indiana Fever and ignore Caitlin Clark. Swoopes has since engaged in what can only be described as immature behavior. I'm not here to insult a Hall of Famer, but it was pretty immature to lash out at me, calling me an effing coward. You might wonder why this matters so much. It's not just about basketball anymore. This clash between Swoopes and Clark has ignited a broader conversation about generational divides, race, and how we treat rising stars versus established legends. Swoops tried to deflect, saying, "It's not Caitlin Clark I dislike, it's her fans. They're mean and evil." Yet, Swoops' legacy as a player is becoming overshadowed by this controversy, and fans who once idolized her are now questioning her credibility. It's like watching a hero fall from grace in real time, all because of her stance on Clark. Clark's success has exposed the dark side of women's basketball. She's not just playing the game, she's transforming it. Packed arenas, record-breaking viewership, and newfound buzz are surrounding women's basketball, thanks to Clark's performances. But with that spotlight comes complications. People are accusing Clark of stat padding, chasing personal records at the expense of team play. Even former WNBA player Val Whiting questioned whether players are aware of their stats during games, suggesting Clark might be chasing rebounds just to boost her numbers. But isn't that part of being competitive? Fans defend Clark, arguing that striving for individual achievements is part of the sport. In the end, Swoops' attacks on Clark only serve to fuel the narrative that Clark is being unfairly targeted. This controversy is about more than just two athletes. It's a flashpoint in a larger conversation about respect, recognition, and the evolving dynamics of women's basketball. What is Sheryl Swoopes doing now? Caitlin Clark's success is creating a fascinating paradox in women's basketball. On one hand, Clark is elevating the sport to new heights. More people are watching, talking about, and getting excited about women's basketball than ever before. But on the other hand, some former players seem resentful of the attention she's getting. Despite averaging 18 points and leading the WNBA in assists at 8.4 per game, Clark hasn't even reached her peak performance yet. Is this just normal competitiveness, or is there something deeper going on? Reports indicate that Clark is being targeted on the court. 80% of the Chicago Sky's flagrant fouls are against her. That's not just bad luck. It's a pattern. Watching the Sky, it almost seems like they're tanking to secure a spot in the WNBA draft lottery. So what's really happening here? Is Clark's success exposing deep-rooted issues in women's basketball? Are we witnessing a clash between the old guard and new talent? Or is this simply the cost of being at the top? One thing is clear, Clark's impact goes far beyond her stats. She's changing the game and reshaping how people view women's basketball, and that's making some people uncomfortable. Interestingly, many black male basketball fans have become big supporters of Clark, openly criticizing Sheryl Swoopes and calling her out for embarrassing herself. Even Nancy Liberman, after her appearance on Smith's show, is finding herself caught in the crossfire. It's not just about basketball anymore. Clark's success seems to be revealing deeper, more troubling realities within women's sports. This is bigger than just Clark's incredible skills or Swoopes' controversial comments. It's about how race, generational differences, and differing definitions of success are intersecting in the sport. Swoopes appears to be very bitter, perhaps feeling pressured to align with Angel Reese and other older black female players who paved the way, but often feel overlooked. There's no denying that this has become a cultural and racial issue. Why are so many people getting worked up over one player's success? It's not just about jealousy or competitiveness. This controversy is exposing serious underlying issues: how we view race, how we define success, and how different generations clash within women's sports. And here's where it gets even more intense. Some are saying that Swoopes' criticism of Clark isn't just about the game. They wonder if her past experiences as a coach, including allegations of mistreating players, might be influencing her current views. Could her history be affecting her stance today? Clark isn't just playing basketball. She's changing the game and sparking conversations that go beyond the court, impacting the entire world of women's basketball. Why is she so hard on Clark now? She's dug herself into a hole so deep that it seems she has no choice but to stick with her stance, whether it leads to success or failure. And Jason, she's facing constant setbacks repeatedly. But it's not just her. Other players are feeling the pressure too. One former player mentioned that the atmosphere made playing more about survival than enjoyment. With such immense pressure, it's no wonder some athletes might lash out at rising stars like Clark. Now, let's focus on Clark herself. She's not only breaking records, but also shattering old narratives about women's basketball. This is making some people quite uncomfortable. They're accusing her of padding her stats and receiving unfair advantages on the court. But is that really the case, or are they simply resistant to change? Take Angel Reese's offensive game, for example. The criticism has reached a point where people are vocally questioning their own credibility if they don't acknowledge it. Did you see the video of Dwight Howard playing a pickup game outside, where missed layups led to shouts of "Angel Reese"? That shows how pervasive this issue has become. Clark's success is challenging the status quo and bringing unprecedented attention to women's basketball. With this spotlight comes increased scrutiny, and not everyone is pleased. Some fans are even calling out the harsh criticism as shocking and unjustified. So, what does this mean for women's basketball? Is Clark's rise exposing deep-rooted issues, or is it simply a sign of growing pains as the sport evolves? When analyzing the impact and statistics, it's clear who the standout rookie is. If you're still debating between Clark and Angel Reese for Rookie of the Year, you're not being honest. There's even speculation that Angel Reese might not even be the second most effective rookie. Clark isn't just breaking records, she's revolutionizing the game. Yet some people are actually upset about her success, accusing her of stat padding and getting special treatment. But isn't that part of being a star? Clark isn't letting the negativity affect her. She says she tries to stay centered, which demonstrates remarkable mental toughness. Despite the drama, she continues to dominate on the court. So what's the real story here? Is Clark uncovering deep-seated issues in women's basketball? Or is this just the reaction to someone shaking things up? One thing is clear: Clark's impact extends far beyond the scoreboard. She's changing perceptions of women's basketball, and that's pretty incredible, don't you think?